Cameron Hensley. I'm interviewing my granny, Sharon Rose Hensley, and she's 69. Where were you born?
Here in Ashland.
What year?
I was born in 1947 in January, and you know what?
What?
The first year that I was born, there was a great big snow on because it was in January. And you know what my daddy did?
What?
When I was 4 days old, he took me outside and put me in the snow and made a snow angel. And my mama just about killed him because she thought I was going to get pneumonia.
So, what are the names of your birthdays and brother?
My brothers and their birthdays? My oldest brother is Lonnie Charles Miller. He's 66, and he always was getting me in trouble. He was kind of like you. He liked to aggravate me. And he would go and he would know everybody in the neighborhood before I would know anybody, because I was kind of shy. And you know what he did one time? When he was out riding his bike one day, he went and was riding his bike and he ran into these boys and they got into a fight. And he started riding his bike just as hard as he could, and I was out in the backyard, and when he got to me, he jumped off of his bike and he ran in the house and he said, "My sister will take care of you." So he left me to battle the boys.
Did you ever want any sisters?
I would have liked to have had a sister, yes, but I loved my brothers. And I had close friends growing up. There was a little girl that lived next door to me, and me and her were the same age, and her name was Karen Smith. And we played together all the time.
Do you know why you were named Sharon?
I was named Sharon Rose because when my mama was going to have me, she had a dream, and she dreamed about the Rose of Sharon. So when I was born, they named me Sharon Rose.
Did you
I forgot to tell you about Rick, my other brother. I've got two brothers. Rick is 7 years younger than me, so he's 62. I'm 69, and he's bigger than me or his other brother.
Did you get any allowance when you were a kid or adult?
I got an allowance from the time I was about 6 years old until I was a teenager. And then by the time I was a teenager, I worked at a little grocery store next door to me and made money from the time I was about 13.
Who was more strict than your mom or dad?
My mom. She was really the one that did all the discipline, at least with me. I can count on one hand the time my daddy ever corrected me. I was his little girl.
What were your favorite games and activities to play with your...
When I was growing up, I liked to play Monopoly just like you guys do. We played Monopoly as a family, and also when I would have friends over. And I liked to play dolls and doll houses and stuff like that. We had tea parties just like little girls do today. Had my first birthday party when I was in the 5th grade. My first birthday party that I had other people besides family. And got in trouble because I didn't thank the people enough, and my mother got mad at me.
How many houses did you move from?
How many houses did I live in when I was a little girl and growing up? 2. Well, no, I don't remember 3 really. I don't remember the first one. I was too young. I lived on Hilton Avenue. and moved away from there when I was about 4 or 5. Moved into street on a house on Beach Street and lived there until I was 16, and then we moved to a house on 13th Street where we lived until I got married to your papa.
What chores were you assigned to do?
Well, I had to clean my room, and I had to iron. My job was to iron. And back when Granny used to iron, you didn't have steam irons like what you have now. They had the water in the iron. You would take your clothes and you would take a sprinkle bottle, like a Coke bottle with a sprinkler on the end of it, and then you'd sprinkle all the clothes wet and you'd wad it in a little ball and you put it in the basket and you spend hours ironing everything. We even ironed the sheets and the underwear. That's something. But you didn't have a dryer either. You dried your clothes on a line outside.
What did your house look like? Is it still the same?
The one I grew up in? No, it's not the same. I see it all the time. But it's got ramps and all the trees I remember are gone. All the flowers that my mother planted are gone. And I don't know what the inside looks like because I haven't been in it.
Did your house have electricity when you were young?
Yes, I wasn't that old, but no, yeah, I had electricity. Even had, but you know what? I was about 10 years old the first time I had a TV, and it was black and white, and it was little, and I had that little black and white TV up until I was a teenager, and then we got a little color TV when I was about to get married, about 17, 18 years old. What would you do if you didn't have a TV? Well, they didn't have any color or you couldn't play games on or anything. You'd think you were being mean to, wouldn't you? Got any more questions?
Did your family have big reunions?
Yes, we did. We had great big reunions, but you know where they were usually at?
Where?
The cemetery. On Memorial Day, we'd all meet at the cemetery. And then we'd go to Central Park for a picnic. A big picnic out in the park after we'd all been to visit all the graves. And my Uncle Bill, which you never met, he'd always bring a great big tub full of ice and pop in bottles. Glass bottles then.
Did you like school?
I loved school, yes I did.
What kind of grades did you get when you went to school?
I made A's and B's. I was on the honor roll except for 1 year when I was in the 11th grade and I took French. And I just couldn't understand it. And I ended up dropping it because I didn't want to make a bad grade. Which I did anyway.
What were your favorite subjects when you went to school?
Math and history.
Why did you like them?
I just loved math. I still like math. I like numbers. And I like history because I like to know what caused things to happen now that were related to what happened years ago. lots of things that we have today and lots of things that happen today are because of what happened a long time ago.
When you were a teenager, what time did you have to be at home at night?
11 p.m. 11 p.m. And one time, me and your papa went to a restaurant called the Bluegrass, where a lot of the teenagers went.
Bluegrass Revival?
No, Bluegrass Restaurant. You don't even remember that, but there was a real special, kind of like a hangout for teenagers. And when we realized it was almost 11:15, and my parents were very strict. And we started down Greenup Avenue coming home, and we saw a house on fire. And your papa parked the car and jumped out and ran into the house to help get the lady's furniture, because she was running out of the house hollering, "Get my furniture, get my furniture." So papa and a couple of the other men in the neighborhood were helping to get her furniture out. And here comes one fire truck in behind the car and one fire truck in front of the car. And me and papa were trapped and couldn't get out. And I was late getting home. And we finally found a phone and called and said, "We're trapped by fire engines. We can't get home." I still didn't get to go out for a week.
What are the names and birthday of your brothers and sisters?
I don't have any sisters, but I have two brothers. Lonnie Charles Miller, and how old he is now? Yes, he's 67. And Lonnie, I just told you Lonnie, Dale Richard Miller, he's 52.
Did you have a pet when you were growing up?
Did I ever have a pet? Yes, I did. I had a kitty cat, and her name was Snowball. And the reason her name was Snowball is because she was so white, she looked like a great big snowball. And she had baby kittens, and all of them were just as white as she was. And we ended up giving all the kittens away, and we had her for years. And I loved her. I loved having a kitty cat.
What was your first job?
I worked in a little grocery store next door to my house. And the man that I worked for was Ellis Tackett. And he let me start working there just part-time, helping him out when I was 13. Well, I really wasn't even quite 13. But I worked in a grocery store a lot. Even when I got married, I worked in a grocery store. I worked in the meat room, and I worked in the produce department, I ran a cashier, and I worked in the deli.
How old were you when you got married?
18. I graduated from high school in June of 1965 and got married in December of 1965.
What was your last name before you got married?
Miller.